Hello there, and welcome to Playworms. The film starts in New York City, where John Wick and his pit bull are staying with the Bowery King. John is punching a board until his knuckles bleed. The Bowery King enters, asking if John is ready to go after the high table. John simply responds,
Yeah.
John travels to Morocco, where he chases men working for the Elder on horseback. After killing them, he confronts the Elder for his ring, but is told the ring is gone. John executes the Elder before leaving. Back in New York, Winston and Sharon are summoned by the Harbinger to meet the Marquis de Gramont, sent by the High Table. They've learned of the Elder's execution, and the Marquis scolds Winston for not killing John. As punishment, the New York Continental is condemned and blown up. Winston is made excommunicado, and the Marquis shoots Karen in the chest. Winston stays with his dying friend, saying it should have been him. In Paris, a blind assassin named Cain is in the park, watching his daughter Mia play the violin. He's called upon by the Marquis to hunt John. Cain refuses, citing retirement, but the Marquis threatens Mia's life if he doesn't comply. John heads to the Osaka Continental, managed by his old friend Koji, where his daughter Akira works as the concierge. Koji agrees to give John sanctuary, though Akira is suspicious of his presence. Soon, the Marquis's right-hand man, Chidi, arrives with a hit squad to lure John out. Koji's men engage in a battle with the High Table assassins, firing arrows in the darkness. When the hitmen reach the roof, John grabs his gun and starts taking them down. While Koji's guards manage to fend off most of the hitmen, Cain arrives, setting traps to track his targets with his sword and gun. Akira joins the fight but is wounded. John helps her and Koji escape while he continues to fight, even using nunchucks to take down several opponents. Cain and John, old friends, briefly fight before John escapes. Meanwhile, a tracker named Mr. Nobody and his dog are nearby, killing some of the gunmen after John. He wants the $20 million contract on John's head, but decides to help him for now. As Koji and Akira attempt to flee, they encounter Cain. Koji refuses to let Cain go after John, leading to a sword duel. Koji eventually succumbs to a fatal blow. Akira holds her father's dying body, trying to grab his sword to avenge him, but Cain warns her against it. He tells her he will see her again before leaving. Winston meets with the Bowery King, both aware that staying close to John makes them prime targets. Meanwhile, the Harbinger confronts the Marquis about the unnecessary bloodshed at the Osaka Continental. The Marquis, however, insists that killing John is crucial, not just for his death, but to erase the legend of him as an untouchable and unkillable figure. The Marquis is then visited by Mr. Nobody, who demands a $23 million contract for killing John. To test his resolve, the Marquis impales Mr. Nobody's hand with a knife, forcing him to choose between pulling the knife out or pulling his hand free. Mr. Nobody pulls his hand out, cutting between his fingers, and the Marquis reluctantly agrees to honor his request. John visits Winston at Sharon's tomb to offer his condolences for the loss of his friend. Winston suggests that, to regain his freedom from the High Table, John must challenge the Marquis to a duel, a seemingly mythical practice. The only people who can support John in this duel are his family, but the Ruska Roma have severed ties with him. Left with no other options, John agrees to seek them out. John travels to the Ruska Roma in Berlin, where he's greeted by a shotgun blast from a priest before being tied up with a noose around his neck. His adoptive sister Katya meets him with anger, blaming him for the execution of her father, Pyotr, which occurred after John's killing of the Elder led the Marquis to act. Pyotr would have supported John in the duel. To redeem himself, John offers to help Katya. She orders him to go after Killa, a German High Table member responsible for her father's death. John heads to Killa's nightclub, where Cain and Mr. Nobody are also on the hunt for him. The three engage in a tense card game with Killa, who cheats before having his men attack them. John pursues Killa through the club amidst unsuspecting clubgoers. John uses a card to slice Killa's neck and fights him, but Killa's strength and weight give him the upper hand. As Killa's men attack, they meet bloody ends, and Killa pushes John over a balcony. Despite the setback, John continues and corners Killa, knocking him over a stairway. Killa falls headfirst to the ground, dying from the impact. John takes one of Killa's gold teeth as proof of his death and presents it to Katya. She reacts approvingly and helps John undergo the Ruscaroma family's branding ceremony, providing him with their full support for the duel. Winston visits the Marquis to deliver the official challenge document from John, demanding the duel. Despite the Marquis's attempt to refuse, Winston reminds him that he is bound by the High Table's rules, meaning he must comply. Winston also demands that if John wins, he will no longer be excommunicado, and his Continental will be restored with his management reinstated. However, the Marquis warns Winston that if John dies, so will he, as Winston will be John's second. John sits down with the Marquis, and the Harbinger presides over the duel's conditions. The fight will take place at the Sacré-Cœur in Paris at sunrise, and both men will duel with guns. If either fails to show up, it will result in automatic forfeiture and execution. Cain is chosen as the Marquis's second, and is promised his and his daughter's freedom if he kills John. Later, John meets Winston and Bowery King, the latter of whom equips him with a new gun and a bulletproof suit. In an attempt to stop John from reaching the Sacré-Cœur on time, the Marquis sends Chidi and his thugs after him. As John makes his way through Paris, he faces off against numerous gunmen in the streets. The High Table tracks his every move, sending more assassins after him. John enters a warehouse packed with enemies and fires explosive rounds, while Mr. Nobody continues to assist, taking out more of the hitmen and contacting the Marquis to demand a higher payment. The Marquis agrees to a $40 million contract, bringing even more dangerous and doomed assassins into the fray. John finally reaches the steps leading up to the Sacré-Cœur, fighting off more assassins. Just as he gets close to the top, Chidi appears and knocks him all the way back down. Cain arrives and helps John ascend, taking out Chidi's men along the way. Mr. Nobody shows up too, furious over Chidi throwing his dog into traffic. But thankfully the dog is fine. With John's help, they take down Chidi. His dog bites Chidi in the crotch, and Nobody finishes him off with a bullet to the head. As a final insult, the dog pees on Chidi's face. John reaches the top just moments before sunrise. He and Cain face each other for the final duel, each drawing their pistols. Both hit each other twice. On the third round, Cain shoots John in the gut, but John does not return fire. The Marquis, eager for the kill, orders to finish John off, only for Winston to step in, reminding him that John didn't fire his last shot. The Marquis realizes too late that John is still alive, and before he can react, John shoots him dead. The Harbinger declares both John and Cain free from their obligations to the High Table. John, now free, walks down the steps, briefly thinking of Helen. He whispers her name before slumping over. John Wick dies a free man. Winston and the Bowery King bury John next to Helen, with a tombstone that reads, "Loving husband," as John had requested. That's how the movie ends here. If you liked our video, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel for upcoming videos.